All right, everybody. So I'm excited to have join us tonight is TJ Smink from the Washington Commanders. TJ and I have been friends for many years, and I'm excited to have him join us because he's got a great story and a great path into sports. As I mentioned to you guys earlier tonight, TJ is a guy who played college sports, transitioned to passion for sports, into working in the MLS, which he didn't know anything about, soccer, the sport of soccer, and then quickly was able to establish himself in that area, get promoted multiple times, and then obviously had an opportunity then to go into the NFL, and now is with the Washington Commanders. So I'd like to introduce TJ to the class. So TJ, thanks for joining us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me, JP.
So why don't you just start out by just telling the class a little bit about yourself and giving them a little bit about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So born and raised in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. So I know it's not far from where you guys currently are now. I miss Lansdale. I've seen a couple of changes, but haven't been back in a little bit now. But yeah, went to North Penn High School, played football varsity there for a couple of years, and earned a scholarship to play football at Shippensburg University. So went to Shippensburg from 2012 to 2016, the Harvard of South Central Pennsylvania, of course. But while I was out there, I was able to attain a internship with the Philadelphia Union. So I started out as an intern in 2016 doing event operations. So event operations is very much the grassroots marketing. And back then in 2016, the team had been around for 6 years. So very much was competing with the Flyers, the Eagles, the Phillies, who very much have their hold on every generation in the Philadelphia market, as I'm sure all of you guys very well know. So it was very different kind of seeing the club start out as really nobody knowing them at all to what they are today. But was going out to like local youth soccer tournaments in the area, setting up like inflatables, doing a lot of activation for the team, really just spreading the awareness of the team. But found out while doing that I was doing more moving of inflatables compared to some of my other colleagues who were interns, who were getting the chance to really meet some of the people who were in the front office. So I let it be known to the other interns that I wanted to meet some of the people in the front office during my internship, and an opportunity presented itself because it was an unpaid internship at the time, where the ticketing intern needed a part-time job and someone needed to fill in as the ticketing intern in the morning. So I took over as ticketing intern from about 8 o'clock in the morning to 12 p.m. noon when he would come in. But during that time, I was really able to expand my network, get the chance to hear what other people were doing. Really, that was my first interaction with anything ticket sales related at all. But I would do that until about 12, and then 12 to roughly about 4, 5, 6, I was back doing grassroots marketing in the area. And then once I would drop the U-Haul back off in Chester, I would drive my 1993 Dodge Dakota. God, I miss that thing. Back to Lansdale, Pennsylvania. So in total, it was about an 86-mile round trip commute in a beat-up truck. And I would pretty much close the day down working night shift at Dick's Sporting Goods in the shoe department. So did that for an entire summer. And from the work that I put into it, they kind of caught on that I really wanted to do something ticket sales related. And they did a internship ticket sales competition. And through that, I placed second overall with the third most tickets that they had ever seen sold in the competition to the most different unique buyers. And that prompted them to then kind of let me sit in with their first ever inside sales class. So was able to sit in as an intern, learn kind of exactly how you guys are, the sales process, everything with benefits, how to overcome objections, and kind of went through that with people who were already hired And after going through that with them, they actually offered me a job for when I did eventually graduate in December of 2016 to start up with them in 2017. So then in January of 17 started inside sales, and inside sales is very much the opportunity to really show that you are able to get told no 100 times a day, but still pick the phone up for a 101st time and really just make sure that you're perfecting your craft, being able to overcome objections, working with people who aren't necessarily like very familiar with the team or haven't been out with the team in years, because that's really an opportunity where they want to see if you are able to, one, perfect your craft and be able to get the chance to show that you're able to overcome adversity on the phones, overcome different things that people are going to say, and really start to develop into the way that they want you to speak essentially on the phone. And through doing that, I was able to earn a promotion to the season ticket account executive team, where I was calling on people who were either coming out to games that current year or just recently had come out to games, show that we were able to provide value through our season ticket benefits, but also really get the chance to spread the love of soccer to those in the area as well. And from there, I actually then began networking myself, and that's where I met JP back in 2018, and found that I really enjoyed talking to companies, really enjoyed building relationships with companies, and getting the chance to show them on how we could essentially put a tool in their tool belt to help them achieve their business goals. So through working with a number of companies and being able to provide them with opportunities to really grow their own businesses, I got promoted to the premium team, and then really started to hone in on selling suites throughout my time there, and showing really selling through the pandemic and building relationships that way. Was able to use my relationships to then become the manager of premium seating for the Philadelphia Union. So now the Philadelphia Union are currently in first place, and it's great looking back and seeing all the success that they're having now, and knowing that I was a little part of that success. But through the success that I did have there, I was recruited to actually come down for the Washington Commanders. Got to a point with the Union where wasn't necessarily a lot of premium left to sell, because as they've kind of said to me, I pretty much sold it all. Where I'm coming now to an organization that very much needed the help and recreating those relationships with the business community. So that's currently what I'm doing down here.
Okay, so TJ, what are the biggest differences now from MLS to now the NFL? And now that you've been with the Commanders now for a couple months, what are you seeing?
Yeah, the biggest difference definitely is that more people are watching NFL games more regularly than MLS. So being with the Philadelphia Union back in 2017, when I would call someone, they would either tell me who, or they'd say, oh, you know what, like I need to reach out because you guys have my check. And I'd have to explain to them, no, like not that kind of union, like the soccer team. Whereas now, I say the Washington Commanders, football team, Redskins, everybody knows exactly who I'm talking about. They all have their own opinions, whether that be good or bad about the team performance. But by hearing that on the phones, I can immediately know, okay, like they care. So that's very much the difference that I've found so far, is that everybody has their own relationship with the team already down here, because we're currently celebrating our 90th year.
Okay. What are you focused in now? Like, so you mentioned, at the Union, you ended your tenure at the Union selling suites and premium. What are you sort of focusing now with the Commanders? What's sort of the most immediate need?
Yeah, so pretty much the exact same thing. So because of the success I had selling suites with the Union, that's what they brought me down here to do as well too. So right now we are currently #1 in the NFL in terms of new suites sold. We're actually right on the cusp of breaking the record for most annual suites. And when I say annual, it's someone who has a suite for multiple years and signs a contract. But we're on the cusp of breaking the NFL record this year for most suites sold in a single season. And by, me and the few others that they did bring down here, we've already surpassed the full revenue that the team produced last year for suite revenue as well too. So I think I have a part to do with that. I'd like to think so, at least. That's very much what we're doing right now. So I'm working with companies in the area and entertaining their top prospects, clients, and employees through the use of tickets. So, mainly it's through suites, but at the same time, we're also able to do season tickets, also able to do group tickets. It's very much figuring out what makes sense and then going that route and finding what could be the best fit for them.
So what are you doing differently? Is it the team? Is it the success? Is it the new brand, new quarterback? What's going on that now allows you to be successful where maybe in the last couple of years you had trouble or challenges selling?
Yeah. So 2 years ago, they brought in a brand new team president in Jason Wright. And with that, he pretty much did a complete rehaul of the entire organization, which is part of the reason as to why I'm down here now. Because if I didn't believe in the vision that they had, I wouldn't have left what I had in Philly, because it's a very good spot right now. But since Jason took over 2 years ago, 76% of the entire organization is brand new, including 100% of the leadership team. And with that, we now have the highest percentage diversity amongst our leadership team at 36%. And that's with ethnicity as well as sex. And the next team isn't even close to 20%. So we're now being used as an example on kind of how to overturn an organization and how to bring better things back to the team. And it's very much able to be seen. So Jason is also one of the first team presidents who actually formerly played in the NFL. So he knows from a player perspective, what players are looking for when they're in free agency, what they're looking for in terms of loyalty to the people. So if you look at our past offseason, we extended Terry McLaurin, we extended Jonathan Allen. We do now have a very good core of players that are going to be going forward here with the team for years to come. But with that too, we've totally revamped our entire practice facility. We understand that, players want to be able to go somewhere and see that there are being changes essentially for their health. So before Jason actually said that he would step on the practice field and he'd be like, this is a disgrace. But he also found out very quickly that the money that people spend on season tickets, on suites, on partnerships, all of that money directly goes back into the investment that we are doing with our different facilities, with the player contracts, with the different things that attract people to come here. So he's very much shown that everything is very connected, where he wasn't aware of that being on the outside looking in before.
Tell us a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like. What's your typical day in the office look like?
Yeah. So I'm currently reaching out to companies around the DMV and trying to set up meetings and seeing if what we do with some other companies here could potentially make sense for them. So coming from Philly, I have a very rich history in terms of working with construction companies, law firms, IT services. Those are kind of the niche industries that I like to work with because I personally know how to talk to them. And there are a lot of those companies down in this area as well too, especially in the IT services, just because everybody's trying to do IT security with the government some way, somehow. So I'm able to work with them and showing them how they're able to utilize suites, whether that be on a game day or non-game day use, and really get the chance to, customize a space to make it their own. So currently sitting in, a suite right now where, it's customized in the sense that they brought their own TV, they brought their own furniture, and really kind of made this their own home away from home. But they're able to use the TVs and do presentations on non-game days to clients if they want to come out and, do it here at the suites, but also get the chance to then instead get the chance to watch game day as well too.
Oh, there you go.
There's definitely worse places to work, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's open it up to some of the student questions. So, questions you guys have? Anybody? Don't be shy.
I don't bite.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume based on your background that you're more interested in football than soccer. So would you say like that interest level affects, how well you do, or how much of a factor that is in you doing your job?
Yeah, so funny enough, I found out very early in my career that working in sports, it doesn't necessarily matter what sport you're working in, because everything very much translates over to the next sport. So working in ticket sales, you can, by looking at any script that you kind of look at from the team that you do end up working with, especially in sales, you can essentially replace the team name with any team, because you're still working on giving a family, giving a company an experience, not necessarily like focusing more so on the sport. So me personally, what I'm currently doing with companies, I'm making sure that they're getting the chance to get in front of top prospects, clients, and employees, and getting the chance to earn the time on decision makers' calendars, not necessarily selling them on whatever product is on the field, on the rink, on the court. It's more so about getting the chance to get in front of people that they don't necessarily get the chance to get in front of outside of a sporting event, I should say. But with that, I will say it was a little challenging at first for me. My soccer background is very minimal. So JP knows this story, but when I first started with the Union, I never thought that I would be with the Union. And the reason that is because I tried out for the same soccer team with all of my friends growing up in Talmenson. I tried out 5 years in a row and I got cut every single year because my shoulders were a little bit too wide. And then I played offensive line in football all the way through college. So to bring me back to soccer, it was very ironic. But I found out very early on that I needed to very much invest myself in the team, become a fan of whatever team I was rooting for, or whatever team I would be working for, because then you're able to really talk passionately about the team on the phones, and get the chance to really excel with talking as well. So when I say that it pained me to my core to root against the Eagles this past weekend, it was not fun. I all of my friends and family made it down here for the game. I know some of JP's friends as well made it down for the game. And yeah, like it was the first time ever where I could not say "Go Birds" in public. So it was definitely different.
Yeah, it's crazy because obviously I know you're an Eagles fan, and you're at your heart, but when you work for a team now like the Commanders, you're rooting for the success of that team.
100%.
Yeah, you're invested because of not only your job, but because you're now part of the organization. So you're going to now be a Commanders fan, and that's going to, you may still always root for the Eagles, and that might be part of, but you're now you're going to be a Commanders fan, and yeah.
Listen, I hope the Eagles go 15-2 every year, but those two losses are to the Commanders. Like
right, exactly. Exactly. So, good. No, good question. Who else? Yeah, go ahead.
I guess you kind of rose up the ranks pretty quick while at the Union. Like, can you kind of speak on like how you did that in a sense? Like, was it just sales or like work ethic or like trying to be available from those events?
Yeah. So the one thing that I can tell you that you can't teach is work ethic. So you can do whatever you want. You can be the best on the phones possible, but at the same time, if you're not grinding, you're not hustling every day, like that's something that stands out. So I made sure that I was number one in terms of making calls. And with that, it didn't necessarily translate immediately like on the leaderboard, but over time, after getting the chance to really hone in on my craft, doing 100 calls, 120 calls, whatever it may be per day, that was just that many more opportunities to make sure that I was getting better myself. So I made sure that I was number one in terms of doing that, and that eventually led to getting better numbers up on the board. But I'm a big, I'm a big, what's the word I'm looking for? I think very highly of working for that next position. So even before I was in premium seating and premium sales, I was already doing what a premium sales rep would have been doing. So that's when I met JP, I was selling season tickets, but I was already talking to companies because I wanted to become a premium rep. So I was very much directly working towards that next position before actually having the title. And that started out when I was in inside sales. So when I was in inside sales, I very much dressed like polo, khakis, or jeans for the most part, sneakers like every single day. But I knew that I wanted to be that account executive, wanted to be that premium account executive. So I very much made sure that I dressed the way that I wanted to look as well too. So I changed into, blazer, dress shirt, dress pants, slacks, dress shoes. And that eventually, was able to be seen by management, and the way that I acted, the way that I looked, what I was currently doing. And that's very much how I moved through the ranks.
TJ, one of the things we talked about earlier tonight, we talked about, we started a class with our conversation about the importance of prospecting.
Mhm.
And tell us a little bit about what works for you in terms of prospecting. What's your strategy when you say, all right, I need to prospect for a new suite or new premium, or what's sort of your strategy?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways that you can prospect. A book that I very much enjoy is called Fanatical Prospecting. And it very much talks about different, all the different ways that you can prospect. But then after prospecting, prospecting is only as good as the action that's taken afterwards. So very much make sure that you're prospecting, but then also calling those people as well. But I'm a massive networker. So when I was in Philadelphia, I was going to networking events about 3 to 4 times a week, whether that be early in the day, late at night. I remember for March Madness distinctly earlier this year, I was at 3 events just in that day, morning, afternoon, and then nighttime as well too. Because I'm very much a people person. I love talking with people, love getting the chance to meet them in person. And I've always found success of getting in the room with someone after getting the chance to meet them distinctly. So networking is a big reason as to why I'm at where I'm at now. And I actually got that opportunity from originally cold calling a company by the name of CertaPro Painters back in 2017. But through talking with them and making sure that they were having the absolute best time possible with the union, they invited me out to a networking event at the Pyramid Club in Philadelphia. And that's actually when I met you, JP, and you introduced me to the networking groups that you're involved with. And it all kind of just spider web from there. So very big proponent of networking, just because you never know who you're going to meet, but always making sure that you're going into a room not necessarily trying to sell anyone, but more so putting the relationship first. So networking is a very big one. I'm also a big proponent of, just if you drive around, I'm sure you probably see billboards down here in DC. There aren't any billboards, but there are very much a ton of just branded cars. So if somebody has the $10, $15, $20,000 it is to brand an entire truck, more than likely they've got some sort of budget that they're doing for marketing, more so, as well as entertaining clients and prospects. So when I'm down here in DC, like I'm taking voice memos on my phone, I'm driving around and I'm reading out exactly what I'm seeing in terms of Metropolitan, Bath and Tile, XYZ construction company. One that I actually just booked a meeting with today, it's called LNW Supply, where they do supply for construction companies around the area here. And I looked them up and it turned out that they're about a $1.2 billion company. So very much just keeping your antennas open at all times. You never know who you're going to meet anywhere. I'm that guy that'll be in the grocery store and I'll just start talking with someone, figure out what they do, and book a meeting from there. Like everybody has their own unique ways of going about it. There's now technology now where you can literally sit there and go, hey, like I know my niche industries are construction, law firms, and IT services, and you can sort based on headquarters that are around the area where you're at, or something within a 25-mile radius of you. and then kind of figure out who that key decision maker is from there and build a list of all the companies around you, and start calling that way. So there's a lot of different unique ways to prospect. Those are just a couple of the ways that I personally have enjoyed doing. But like up in Philly, I know I was a member of the Philadelphia Business Journal, and they come out with lead lists essentially all the time in terms of who are the top law firms in the city, who are the top construction companies in the city. And then from there, very much just going right down the list and calling every single one of them, congratulating them for being on the list. But then from there, figuring out what they currently do from a marketing perspective, what they do for their employees, what do they do for a holiday party. There's so many different routes that you can go with a company. It's all about just asking questions, being curious, and figuring out what could potentially be the best fit.
Good. Questions? Yeah. A couple more minutes with TJ, so a couple more, any questions, anybody? Yeah.
How often are you presented the opportunity to work through trade value for a company?
Say that one more time, I'm sorry.
How often is trade value a factor in any of your sales, if any?
Trade value in terms of, hey, like I want you to do entertainment, but only if you take my service in a sense.
Yeah.
So that does come up frequently, but the difference is that as you can probably imagine, like being in the NFL now, especially, a lot of companies want to be able to say, hey, like we did the flooring and the suites at the Commander Stadium. We were able to provide the power washing services for FedEx Field. A lot of those kind of conversations have to go directly through our corporate partnerships, and I'm able to facilitate those conversations. But in order for someone to say that they officially did XYZ at the stadium or use our name or brand purposes, it would have to go through our corporate partnerships, and those can start anywhere around the realm of about $100,000 per year. So if someone isn't scared by that number, then absolutely, like I'm able to really make sure that those move along. If there's somebody already in that space, I kind of already, I make sure that I'm providing that and telling them, hey, we already have an official branding partner, an official bank, an official airline that does business with us in that sense, and then very much divert it back to what are you currently doing for your employees? What are you guys currently doing to build those relationships with the key decision makers at companies you haven't been able to get in touch with? What unique opportunities are they doing? And very much kind of move away from those barter trades in a sense. But they do still come up, and if it makes sense, I'm able to move those conversations along. But more often than not, at least so far here, more often than not, they haven't.
Yeah, TJ, definitely those vendor lists were like gold. If you can get your hands on who was installing or who's working on the stadium or who's providing what, those were gold. Those were golden lists. But always were interesting conversations when the salespeople got a hold of those lists.
Very much so, yes.
Yeah.
And I got here a little bit too late to actually get a hold of those lists. So some of my colleagues already have had the chance to really dig into some of those companies.
Right. Okay. Anybody else? So I guess we'll wrap up here. We've got a couple of minutes, and again, we appreciate your time and thank you so much for joining us. I love that you're doing this right now live at the at FedEx Field, and I think that's great that you actually can see the stadium. So what advice would you have for any college students that maybe are thinking about working in sales, or what would you tell them in terms of, or maybe students that want to work in sports but are hesitant about sales? What advice do you think you would have for them?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost is I highly recommend doing an internship. Like doing an internship, you're able to work in a front office, see what you like, what you don't like. But with that, you're really able to network with the people that are in the front office. So the people that do internships, at least from what my experience was at the union, like I can tell you right now, like who was a good intern, who wasn't a good intern. at the very end of one person's internship, I remember the individual wrote a letter for every single person that he interacted with while at the union. And that guy ended up getting a job and is now currently on our group's team as one of their top producing reps. But that all stemmed from just standing out as being a front desk intern during his time with the union. So first and foremost, very much recommend getting an internship, whether that be, with the union, with one of the other teams in Philly. If you want to travel a little bit, like there is an internship anywhere and everywhere in sports. So there is nothing more valuable than having previous experience in sports, because you're able to then really use that to find out what you like, but also then use that on resumes as well when you're applying. And then the second thing I would recommend when talking about resumes is very much customize your resume towards the position that you're trying to apply for. So if you're trying to apply for a marketing role, you want to make sure that your resume doesn't necessarily have accounting on it. You want to make sure that it shows how you were able to work at a certain company and figure out how to either help sales or provide more details on certain opportunities to really advance the company, and vice versa with sales too. If you want to be in sales, make sure that you're highlighting, hey, I was a shoe salesman at Dick's Sporting Goods, was able to classify the shoes in a certain way and provide all the benefits of XYZ shoe to customers to get them to essentially buy the highest product that we did have. Like, you want to make sure that whatever position you're going towards, that it is very much pivoted towards that role, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So those are the top two things that I recommend, especially when trying to get a job in sports, because it isn't the easiest to break into, but once you break into it, that's when the real fun starts.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, TJ. Again, we appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the season. I'll be in touch with you, but I will also share with the class. I know you'd sent me over a job posting that for the Commanders, and so some of we have some seniors here, so there could be some things that some students are going to look at here in the near future. So, but again, we appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Absolutely, sounds good, guys. Have a great rest of the night.
Thanks. See ya.
Later.